Yeah, I'm sure.
Good evening, everyone. As you can see, my voice is a little challenging this evening. I'm going to probably have our esteemed deputy supervisor run the meeting tonight. And I want to welcome you to the December 13th, 2017 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Present.
Mr. Lamore?
Present.
Mrs. Miller Rivera? Present. Mr. Milano?
Present.
Mr. Thomason?
Present.
Five
Joe,
present.
please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to have Ms. McGurl just review the happenings during the agenda meeting, please.
The town of Rotterdam entered into executive session at 5:42 p.m. this evening to discuss the following matters. Employee grievance number 12132017, Tom Core 11 LLC versus Board of Assessment Review of the town of Rotterdam, and Tom Core 11 LLC, FKA Opus 11 LLC versus the town of Rotterdam et al. Index numbers 2016-1505 and 2016-2557. Additional tax matter 3108 Carmen Road LLC versus the town of Rotterdam et al. Index numbers 2016-1517 and 2017-1513. Additional tax matter Nicole M. Thomason versus the Board of Assessment Review of the town of Rotterdam et al. Index number 2017-1378. Invited guest Brad Canning, assessor of the town of Rotterdam. And lastly, there was a discussion regarding an employee disciplinary issue 12132017 with invited guest Deputy Chief of Police Mike Brown.
Okay, thank you. And we'll start with our public hearing this morning, or this evening. Ms. Marco.
Request by Monolith Solar Associates to discuss the construction of a community 200 kW solar farm located in the Aquifer Overlay District on tax map number 12.2-4.1, vacant land, Main Street, in Rotterdam Junction, New York, 12150. There's nobody to speak on it except the gentleman right here. You could just state your names.
Yes, Andrew Peterson from Monolith. I'm joined by James Villanueva, our attorney, Sarah Chappell from our sales department. We're here tonight to discuss the 200 kilowatt solar farm, community solar farm we're proposing at 1600 Main Street. This is the parcel that's under contract for Monolith to purchase. We're looking to construct this by the end of the year, so we've got a very rapid schedule. It's a community solar farm, meaning people whose businesses or homes that aren't viable for solar installation can actually buy into this solar farm. They pay like a homeowner's fee. They own part of the farm. We pick our locations based on concentrations of our customers. Last year we started the community solar project. We've seen that quite a few customers were in the Rotterdam Schenectady area. Our customers like to see the product they're buying, so we put them in the communities where they are buying. With this particular location, it's been we've been working very closely with the building department, planning department, the town designated engineer, because it is in a floodplain. Monolith engineers and Ring & Peterson engineers have been working closely to meet all the requirements of this overlay zone, of the floodplain issues. And I think after these layers of review, we have the planning board, the technical layers, we've accomplished everything that they've asked us to do. Our final step tonight would be the discussion with the town board. So we're here for any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions during this public hearing for Monolith Solar Associates?
Yes, I do. Exactly where is it located? It's on the main street. Is it in that open area
next to the firehouse, or, I mean, whereabouts is it located?
1600 Main is a little bit before the firehouse if you're heading out towards Pattersonville.
Oh, you're
It's a
heading-
vacant parcel. It's on the riverside. The Ryder residence is right next to that. They're the ones that are under contract to sell that property to us.
So is that, from where the firehouse is that further towards Schenectady or further
Towards Schenectady.
Patterson?
It'd be closer to Schenectady.
Okay. So somewhere open before you get to Schenectady, the chemical place? So it's before the chemical place?
After, yeah, I believe it's after the chemical place. Way further.
Right, but I mean, it's between that and the firehouse.
It's
Yes.
closer to the firehouse. If you're coming down the firehouse road, you make a right-hand turn coming back towards
So
Schenectady,
kind
it's
of near
immediately on the
Maybe
left-hand side.
Farm then, or
What's that?
maybe Farm?
No, not even further down.
Further down.
It's just before you get into like the Hamlet area.
Okay. So it's near the high, there's all the different highway areas.
It's right on 5S. Headed, I would say headed out away from Schenectady on the right-hand side.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding this public hearing for Monolith Solar Associates? Any other questions?
What are, how many panels and how high are they gonna, how tall are they gonna be?
All right, so this is a 200 kilowatt system. Working with the engineers and the town, we've raised our panels out of the floodplain. So the bottom layer of the panel will be about 7 feet. It's a very low tilt, so the back of the table would still be the average 12 foot. And we proposed arborvitaes along Route 5S, green giants. They're planted at 4 foot, and within the year they're about 8, and at maturity they're about 20 feet. And they're planted far enough away because we're set back 100 feet that it's not
Don't
gonna
want it to
shade.
block any sun.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions for Monolith Solar regarding public hearing 1? Any other questions? Any other questions? Hearing none, I declare public hearing closed. Okay. Public comment privilege of the floor. Is there any names on the list, Ms. Marco?
Yes. Bob Gavluski.
Bob Gavluski, 1046 Manus Drive. Last time I was here, requested that the board look into a school safety zone on Helderberg Avenue. And I'm looking for an update on where we are on that.
How could we limit it here?
I'll read your lips.
Okay, don't do that, don't do that. So we held a public hearing, and
I know
now
you
we
did.
have, to move forward with our highway superintendent and DPW to move forward to get in touch with the county and do what we need to do for the rest of the process of establishing the zone there.
Okay.
We're under,
I-
we needed to hold a public hearing first, which we did, and we closed.
Close it.
My recollection.
And
September.
what little experience I have in this area.
Sure.
The next logical step before you take any additional action, you have to create the school zone by resolution in this body. Now, it's been a while since I've sat up here. You can have all the discussions you want with everybody else, but you have a letter from New York State, you got a letter from Schenectady County delegating their authority to you to create it. All I'm saying is, let's create it. And then what you do after that, I understand the internal logistics of the highway department. I really don't think the county cares one way or the other, but that's neither here nor there. So I would respectfully request, all right, hopefully January 1st. And when it happens, would you please notify the school district and send me an email? Because it's very cold out, and I wanted to stay up and watch the basketball game, but I want to make sure this gets done right, and we all know why, okay? That's enough on that. I believe this is the last town board meeting of this year. I would like to take this opportunity as a taxpayer to thank Councilmember Villano and Rich Lamore for their service on this board. I watched the meetings. I like the spirited debate. I think it's good for everybody, all right? And then everybody comes to makes a decision and votes. And that's what people are looking for in this town. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the receiver of taxes who is retiring, I believe January 1st. And it escapes me, but I think Dawn has been here over 25 years. And no matter what administration was in office here, she did her job, always had a smile. And I, for one, will miss her, and I'm sure the taxpayers will too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Karlowski, and your recommendation on the school zone is duly noted.
Thank you.
Kristen Waters.
My name is Kristen Waters. I live at 518 Tony Drive, Country Walk Estates. I'm here to address the issue on Spectrum. As you know, Spectrum bought out Time Warner Cable. 12 years ago, when my husband and I built our new home, we had Time Warner come in and wire our house. And the setup was, we had a separate box for our phone, separate box for the modem, and for the internet. The router. Well, as of this past March, we were experiencing difficulty getting internet. And all of a sudden, in the mail, we received a box. And it was an all-in-one internet, router, and phone in this box. And it was just mailed to us. So my husband called up Spectrum, and they basically stated to us that the current setup that we have is not compatible with Spectrum. So that is when the disaster occurred. The tech came in, installed this box. We couldn't get any emails, so we called them back. And so they came in and they changed out the box, and they said it was a bad box. They left. 2 days later, we still couldn't get our emails. So we called them back. A tech came in and diagnosed the problem as a bad wire, and they fixed it. Then 2 days later, we couldn't get our phone to work. So we called them, and they stated to us, oh, we'll have a tech come in. So the tech came in and basically said to us it was a bad wire in the phone. They left, and then we could not get our fax machine to work. So we called them up, and they said, we'll have a tech come out and look at it. So he came out and looked at our fax machine. He basically could not understand what was going on. He said, we'll get my supervisor involved in it. After 3 days, the supervisor never called. So my husband called Spectrum again. And so they came out and they looked at it and they said, a bad wire again. So now our fax machine is working. However, I have a big major problem. We are paying for the highest speed that they have. And what is happening is I have Apple products. My iPad will come in and go out all day long, as well as my neighbors. My cell phone, which I have linked to get my emails, will not work. It'll go like 7 days, and I won't get an email. But once I go on the road, I get it no problem. So I'm here to propose something. Obviously, Spectrum cannot provide the needs for Rotterdam as well as the Capital District. And I know you have a franchise with them of $535,000. What I am proposing to you is, number one, why can't we get another cable provider in? And I'm not saying Verizon Fios, because it's my understanding they have stopped their expansion. Why can't we get Comcast, or it needs to be done by you to see what you can do to bring in another cable company. I am also on Governor Cuomo's email distribution, and I have received an email, and his initiative is to provide high-speed internet, and with no problems. So I'm addressing this issue to you. Hopefully you can address it, which I'm sure you won't be able to, because I have tried to call corporate office to complain to them, and basically they'll ask you to put in your home phone number, and they'll say, well, your phone number is not on file, so plug in your zip code, and then they transfer you to Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, when I have spoken in the past with Charlotte, North Carolina, they have physically told me that there's nothing different between Time Warner in the past with Spectrum. And I said, yes, there is. I said, you have lousy service. And they stipulated to me that my recording, my voice was going to be recorded. And I said, I have no problem. I will tell you that Spectrum is horrible. And so I am addressing to you to see, number one, what you can do about bringing in another cable company so we can pick and choose.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. For the record, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Actually, the supervisor and I have had this conversation. I reached out to Fios 2 years ago when I was first elected, and as you stated correctly,
Right.
Fios wants no part of
They
any
have stopped
expansion. They
their
have stopped it.
expansion.
There's also rumors that that technology is already old.
Right. So what about Comcast?
Well, that's a good recommendation. One of the things that the supervisor and I had discussed is this something big enough where we should bring in a consultant to assist us with this and
yes.
make that investment?
Yes.
Right,
You
and
know,
the
it's
whole
not
I
only
believe it might be the whole
Rotterdam.
county. It might have to be approached by the whole county.
It's the whole Capital District.
Right. So even if Rotterdam wanted to do its own thing, I don't know how much power we would have without the economics.
Right, well, then you
Right.
need to coordinate with the other, because it's all over. It's not just Rotterdam.
Your chronology of disasters, okay? Do you have that documented?
Well, verbally.
Could you document it and email it to myself and the
Oh,
supervisor?
what has
please?
happened to
What
us?
has happened, yes, because if nothing else, maybe we can help you on a customer service thing for a more immediate answer. But long-term, I hear you loud and clear.
We need to do something. It is 2017, it's not the 1990s.
Correct.
We should be able to have another cable provider other than Spectrum. And another issue I have, my TV locks up all the time.
Well, the other thing with Spectrum too, besides the service, is the fact, like, at least with Time Warner, you could buy smaller packages if you don't need a whole lot of everything. Where now, the smallest thing you can get is 100 and something channels, where you might use 10 of them.
Right.
And then so they can keep charging you more and more, and now they're started a new service they say are upgrades, which really is, now they're making it so they can charge you for every TV in the house, because they want a box for each TV.
Right.
So, I mean,
We have
it
that.
looks like our prices to the taxpayer consumers in Rotterdam are gonna go off the roof.
I don't care for Spectrum. To be honest with you, I never had an issue with Time Warner, never. I had good connection as well as with my Apple products. And I use my iPad and iPhone all the time.
So basically, your frustration is they're kind of holding you hostage.
Yeah.
I understand, and believe me, I think that, I think you bring up a valid point. Any of this that you could document and go to the town website and click on our email
Right,
and send it to us.
Right.
At least if we were, as a municipality, to approach the county with it or something, always to have some good testimonial.
Just a suggestion, why don't you reach out to Albany and Troy too? Because I know they're having the same problem.
Yeah, because I think it would have to be some sort of an intermunicipal approach to be able to get
Right,
anything.
right. And as a municipal, you should all work together.
But to sum it up, we feel your pain, and thank you for taking the time to share
I
with us
hope that
today.
this does not get ignored, because this is really a serious problem.
We all use internet, believe me. It's-
Right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Baum?
Tom Baum, 135 Homestead Court, Rotterdam. My issue again is spectrum, and I could probably write a chapter in a book, like this young lady just finished saying, I just moved into a new condominium and it was just one thing after another. And she's absolutely right. They sing a good song, but boy, they miss the dots. They don't know how to cross the T and dot the I. The right hand absolutely does not know what the left hand is doing. It's not very nice, it's not very pleasant. They stumble over things. They outsource probably 3/4 of their work. Again, the people that show up try to do the right thing. People on the phones, it's just, they couldn't find through their GPS where I lived. Not once, not twice. And then they had to call somebody from outsource to find the place. The fourth time, the fellow went to Colony instead of Rotterdam. I literally, prior to going to, to moving, I went on High Bridge, went through a scenario. The girl was very good. She actually literally put the directions in the computer for the people. So, like I said, it could run a chapter. I could fill the pages of that. But that's beside the point. Steve, probably 3 years ago, maybe, yeah, it had to be a good 3, maybe even 4 years ago. Tony, county chairperson Tony Jasinski was here, and I had brought this up about the Schenectady County stepping up to the plate and being able to sit down and negotiate the needs of the people and what's going on. And there was a glitch, and one of the glitches was something about Princetown. And I'm not sure if they're in this, I don't know if it's the same Frontier or somebody's out there. There's a different,
I don't know if they're anywhere, are they? Yeah, they sold to Time Warner. Yeah, that was part of the collection too.
right, so Tony says that the idea or the concept was correct, but their sort of hands were tied. I wish you guys would try to follow up on that, put the lawyers on it to try to do something. We have been, again, and I can say this many, many times, I'm very disappointed in their service. And their customer service people talk the best story, but there's very little results. So I'm asking if you can, number one, get to the county, sit down with them and ask them to justify or try to get something going to justify what's going on. Now, I'm aging myself a little bit, but I remember right on Kings Road, they started this, it was $2 and some cents a month.
Cadillac package was $15 a month.
There you go. And now we're into hundreds of dollars, you know. And after all this said and done, when I was on the last supervisor that showed up, or the only supervisor that showed up, prior to that, I talked to the girl at High Bridge, and that was the third time there. I says, all this inconvenience, and not one person says, I'm going to give you a reduction in your monthly service charge.
Something.
Well, obviously the light bulb went on because they did give it that. Because if you don't ask for it, you're not getting it. So I'm asking you, and I know there's more people that wanted to come here tonight and talk about spectrum. It's just, it's not, the service is not there. But I hope you can do something on a bigger level with the county and try to do something to make something straight here for the people of Rotterdam. Thank you.
We do as well, thank you.
Jack Dodson?
Good evening, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriana Terrace. Before I get started, I too would like to acknowledge Joe and Rick. Again, thank you very, very much for your service, dedication, and giving of your personal time, because as we know, we're all very busy people, and it takes a lot to be prepared for these meetings, and obviously show up and offer your viewpoint. So once again, very, very much appreciate you guys' service. I just have a quick one, Mr. Supervisor. Resolution 319.17 is the authorization of $125,000 for the Hamburg streets. Realize again that there's a capital improvement project currently going on Hamburg. It's my understanding this pertains to an amendment to the betterment agreement for $125,000. No?
It's, yes and no. Hopefully I'll do the best I can. So there are some of our lateral lines that are the town's property, not the...
Water?
Yes, water lines, excuse me. That are the town's responsibility, town property, not the homeowner or the business owner's property. There are several that need to be replaced. That is not part of the agreement that we had with them. The state is putting in the new water line and hydrants. And we will likely not spend or appropriate this much money. However, instead of having to go back and forth with the board 3 or 4 times, and because of the timing of meetings, every couple of weeks, if you will, we're appropriating much more, I think, than we will need to spend there. So this is work that will be done by the contractor that is already there digging everything up and putting, and then will be inspected by our people, while they're doing the work and once it's complete.
Right, so again, just so I understand this correctly, in reading the detail that was included, it talked about 10 private services and the information. I guess, is this 10 private services outside the right-of-way? Or is this, normally, again, doing these projects, you'd have a new water main going through there, you put a tap on it, you bring it to the property line, to a curb box?
We wouldn't be doing work on private property.
You would or would not?
We would not.
Okay, so this is indeed in the highway right-of-way,
Correct.
the street right-of-way?
Correct.
So again, I guess I'm confused in the fact that, obviously the design drawings would show the properties going down through there. Was there 10 of them left out, or I'm just confused as why they're not included in the original work.
Infrastructure's old.
Again, all of this really kind of ties into the project on Hamburg Street and allowing, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Supervisor, allowing businesses to be able to connect to this new water main with, a modernized connection versus the antiquated infrastructure that's there currently.
Right, and it's the laterals that go from the main line, water line to, on our right of way. It is not on the private property itself. This is our responsibility, or the town group, the water district's responsibility, not the homeowner's responsibility. Homeowner's responsibility is from that shut off to their property.
So then if I understand this again, it's 10. So obviously we know there's viewing the construction, actually I go by this construction 2 or 3 times a week, just check progress. We know right now that they're working from basically the bridge down to the senior center. So are these 10 water services in that area right now?
Some are,
Okay.
some are not, some
Okay,
are further down the road.
Okay, so if that's being the case, then there are many buildings and water services that are there from basically the bridge down to the circle. Are all those water services included in it, and this just happens to be 10 more that need to be taken care of? I'm just trying to get a better understanding if we could expect there's going to be more of these.
At this point, we don't expect more of these. But obviously, if whatever pipe is in the ground, once you start digging, you start moving things around, you can make your best effort, and you still may need to replace what's there. If the valves are bad, they're our responsibility. Again, there's a host of items that could be our responsibility here in this project. They go beyond the betterment agreement. But it is less expensive for us to jump in right now with the contractor that is there doing this work and get it all accomplished now for the future. And so I don't know what else to say to you other than that. Again, the bottom line is this is public property that we're working on, not private property.
Now, I just a clarification again now. Normally, again, if I'm involved in a betterment project, my contract document says we're replacing all services from basically the brand new main to basically the right-of-way property line. And I think what maybe I'm coming out of this meeting with tonight is that's not necessarily the case, is that there's some of them that could be very deteriorated, old. Those mains are actually being replaced, the services again. However, the ones that are in decent shape apparently are going to be tapped to the new water main, and they will not be replaced. So this is not an entire replacement of services coming from that new pipe to the right-of-way line.
No,
Okay.
because many of them are newer.
Okay, so that's the answer. I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to the resolutions. Resolution 312.17. Ms. Marco, could you please read it?
Call for public hearing to be held on Monday, January 1st, 2018 at 2 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of the proposed local law of the year 2018 for the following purpose: to allow for a change of zone request on a portion of tax map number 48.17-1-1.11, located at 647 Mariva Road, Rotterdam, New York, from agricultural A1 to general business B2. Applicant is proposing to rezone 4 acres of a 5.84 acre parcel.
As said, this is just to call for the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for the public hearing.
Made by Rick Lamore, second by?
For public hearing, I'll second.
Thank you, second by Samantha Miller Herrera. Any comment or questions on the motion?
Yes, Deputy Supervisor. Although I'm generally against spot zoning, I think spot zoning puts the interests of a developer over the interests of a surrounding property owner. There are some occasions where simply a rezoning of land is a correction of what the land actually is. Certainly nobody believes that the intersection of Mariahville and Burdick Street is agricultural land. It ceased to be that long ago. It's an acknowledgement that that area, particularly the intersection itself, is a business district. It's surrounded by a gas station, a pool company, a barbecue restaurant, multiple housing. I think that this classification is a good thing, and I think it does continue to promote businesses in our town. Businesses are quintessentially necessary for this town to move forward because of the heightened tax that they pay versus homesteads, and the increase of the tax base ends up helping us all. But because that this is not going to be a substantive change of the environment, as some of the other projects that have been presented to this board, such as the one at Whispering Pines, although I will not be here to actually vote on this when it comes to fruition, it is something that I could in fact support.
Thank you, Mr. Villano. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, Ms. Marco, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes, for the public hearing.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 31217 passes. Resolution 31317.
Adopt standard workday for an appointed official for the purpose of determining days worked reportable to the New York State and local employees retirement system.
Okay, may I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Villano. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Any comment or question? Hearing none?
No, now that I saw the wording was changed from elected to appointed, I have no problem.
Very good. Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lemore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 313-17 passes. Resolution 314-17.
Amend resolution number 131.17, appointing the building safety inspector to reflect the proper salary for 2017, $42,004.47.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Moved by Samantha Miller Herrera. Have a second. Am I allowed to second this? I will second the motion. Okay, I believe this is just a clerical correction.
That's what I wanted to find out. If, because I'm just wondering if we've already started paying him at the higher salary. I mean, is this legit for us
Money's
to do
coming
this?
back. Money's coming back to us.
Yeah, yes, money's coming back to us, so.
That's all.
With that clarification, is there any other questions regarding this issue? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lemore?
Yes, now that I have a better understanding.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
I hereby recuse myself. The person that holds this particular position, although not biologically related to me, is related to me distantly by marriage, and I don't want there to be any appearance of my promotion or demotion of his salary.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
So there's 4 yeses and 1 recused.
Thank you. Resolution 314-17 passes. Resolution 315-17.
Resolution to approve a request by Monolith South Solar Associates to discuss the construction of a community 200 kW solar farm located in the Aquifer Overlay District on tax map number 12.2-4.1, vacant land, Main Street in Rotterdam Junction, New York, 12150. Public hearing was called for at a town board meeting of November 8, 2017. A public hearing was held at the town board meeting of December 13, 2017.
Okay, this is of course what we discussed during public comment privilege, under the public hearing rather. Is there any other discussion on 315-17?
Call for
I
the
do
motion
have a
first.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. I didn't call for the motion first, my bad. Okay, may I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilman Joe Valano,
I'll second.
second by Councilwoman Miller Herrera. You had a comment, Mr. Lamore?
Yes, what I'm wondering, why we're having a vote on this if we just now had the public hearing? Shouldn't we wait to vote on it the next meeting? Because you have to have time to absorb all the information and look at things over as far as what you got from the public hearing. So I'm just wondering why we're voting the same day we're doing the public hearing.
There are many
I think we
scenarios.
should have a space between.
There are many scenarios where we voted on the same day that we closed the public hearing. Sometimes it's a matter of
I
timing.
appreciate it anytime.
Yeah, well, as a matter of timing, right. There's things that probably need to be done before the end of the year, but your comment is duly noted. Any other comments?
Yeah. Renewable energy is the way of the future. And it's particularly important as we have an increase of greenhouse gases threatening our environment. The thing though is we also have space for projects like this. We have areas in the town that, because of other environmental concerns, we have to be particularly attentive to what kind of development that we allow on it. One of the areas where this is in fact true is our aquifer overlay zone. It's an area where we have to be very careful about what we put there, because essentially anything that we end up discharging onto the ground can ultimately find itself into our domestic water supply. The thing is, this particular use, solar panels, is an excellent use to be put on the aquifer overlay. It discharges nothing onto the grounds. And as long as construction can be done in such a safe manner as to prevent discharge of construction vehicle fuels, lubricants, things like that, ultimately this will be a long-term project that's a good use of our space. It also doesn't hurt that on top of the environmental benefits, we're going to increase tax base in an area that otherwise may go undeveloped. Certainly, projects like this, not just in the aquifer overlay, but other places in town with similar concerns, I think that should be advanced as quickly as possible. Even though we just had the public hearing tonight, I think that this is something that should be moved on quickly to advance it going forward.
Thank you, Councilman Bolano. Any other comments? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Although I don't think we should be doing it right now, I do agree with all the points that Joe made, so I'm gonna vote yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Very good. Resolution 315-17 passes. Resolution 316-17.
Adopt local law number 5 of the year 2017 for the following purpose: to amend Chapter 71 Alarms, Section 71-8, General Regulation to include I, any unpaid fees shall be assessed as a lien against the subject property and added to the owner's property taxes, and change all dispatch references to the Schenectady County Unified Communications Center. Public hearing was called for at the town board meeting of October 25th, 2017. Public hearing was held at the town board meeting of November 8th, 2017.
Thank you, Ms. Marco. Just to refresh memories, there seems to be an issue where when alarms go off, there's a billing process, and people seem to be ignoring paying those bills for the service that is provided by the town in response to whatever their alarm company situation may be. And we were able to suggest a local law which will automatically take that fee, and if you neglect to pay that fee, will be added to your tax bill. Is that correct, Mr. Supervisor? Yes. Any comments? Hearing none, Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Motion.
Oh, you need motion. We're a little too quick here.
I'll move.
Okay, all right, moved by Councilwoman Herrera,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilman Bolano. Any comments? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Very good. 316-17 passes. Motion of resolution number 317-17.
Authorize the supervisor to sign the settlement agreement between the Town of Rotterdam and the Town of Rotterdam unit of the Schenectady County chapter of the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., allowing longevity payments to be included in accrued leave payments upon retirement.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilwoman Herrera. Second? I'll second it. Okay, any discussion?
Yes, Deputy Supervisor. What we're doing here is actually a violation of the general construction of legislation. Every word in a piece of legislation is expected to have a meaning. Contrarily, any time that language is removed from a piece of legislation or a contract signed by a government entity, it is meant to also have an implication. Things get added and taken out of our union contracts all the time. Things ended up getting horse traded. And the fact that the CSEA had a benefit between 1996 and 1998, which subsequently ended up being pulled out of subsequent contracts, does not lead me to believe that we should simply restore benefits that they are not given under our current contract. The fact that they're saying that, oh, well, some retirees have received it, but there have been numerous retirees since then that have not. We're going to do it for this one person, and then for the next few years until it sunsets, we'll give people a 50% benefit, and then after that, we won't do it anymore. Why are we doing this at all? They contracted their rights away. They voted on it. It's gone. The unions get enough from us, whether it be the CSEA or whether it be the police. Don't give them anything more than they have coming. They're paid plenty.
Any other comments on this topic?
I don't think it could have been said any better. I agree 100%.
And that's coming from somebody who is in a public union.
Okay, it is my understanding that, I know there was a logic behind this, Mr. Supervisor, you want to? Why are you laughing? Did I laugh when you spoke?
I'm gonna do the best.
But you hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly the point that I was getting across.
Well, if there's some logic behind it and there's precedent, Okay.
I'll do the best I can with what so I can save as few words as possible. As you pointed out, some employees had been paid and others had not. It has always been part of the PBA contract to do so. So out of fairness, we worked with the union, with CSEA, to implement this MOA, which we have to vote on this evening for its actual implementation. It does sunset at the end of the contract, and that's all I can say to it at this point. That they had made this calculation for employees in the past, even after those contracts. So, there were errors made, and so what we're trying to do is clean it, as it says, clean it up. Ensure that we have it for this current contract in which it will expire, and it will be a negotiable item in the next contract. And more importantly, I don't think you'll see it continue.
Well, it's not actually, the contract was just done last year. It's not in the CSA contract. Granted, it probably is in the PBA contract, but those are two different separate contracts, two different separate unions. If you negotiate a contract and whatever is in the contract, you both say yes to the contract, and that's what the contract is, and then if you want to try to negotiate to get that again, the next contract, then that's what you do. But you shouldn't be changing contracts in midstream. All the effort was gone into negotiating a contract. If they wanted that to be in there, then they should have negotiated that while you're in negotiations. Because that's how you figure out, you give and take, both sides give and take. They didn't do that for that particular item. So I don't see why we should be giving it to them.
Well, and the thing is, right, we are expected to give the union employees every single dollar that they are entitled to under their contracts. And we do that. And we do that by collecting taxes from the people in the town. However, when we give people more than what they're entitled to under the contracts that we've negotiated, whether we do it in error or whether we do it deliberately like we're going to be doing it tonight, we are making gifts out of the public treasury.
But you're also failing to recognize, I don't want to say it, I don't say it in a negative fashion, I'm just going to say in this agreement that it also stipulates that there are no retroactive payments because there was a past practice to allow for these payments.
Well, the thing is,
That's also part of this, which there's many more retirees in the past who may have been eligible, if you will. And what we're doing is we're just going forward here a few years, and in which this will sunset.
any of those retirees would have had to make claim within 90 days. The 90 days have come, and the 90 days have gone. It's closed. We're not getting anything for that. And based upon that, I would ask the members of this humble board to follow my lead and vote no. Because as the deputy supervisor said, and I actually couldn't have done it more eloquently than him, there must be a logical reason to do this. And there is not.
Yeah, you were saying that, other people got it and they didn't. As far as what we were informed, the PBA contract, they got it along the way. But I don't think in the CSEA they got it along the way because they took it out back in, 98, and they haven't had it in the contract since then. So how can they say they deserve it if they haven't had it in the contract since then? You can't make the contract what you want, how you want it, because this is what I want. That's what the contract is. It's a contract. A contract is a contract, and that's what you gotta go by.
Okay. It's my understanding that some CSEA employees, depending on who's doing the calculations, were getting it. So there's an interest of consistency here. And,
Well, then those people that were giving it to them should have been fired.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point.
Any other comments? Ms. Marco, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
In the interest of consistency, I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Lamore?
In the interest of following contracts the way you're supposed to follow contracts, I'm saying no.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Being that we've paid it to other CSEA members who were under this contract, I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
3 yes, 2 no.
Okay, motion carries. Motion 31717 carries. Motion 31817.
A resolution granting the State of New York authority to perform work on town-owned water line and authorizing payment to the state for requested work and agreeing to maintain facilities adjusted VIA state-let contract.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion made by
I think
Councilman Valano.
that's the one we're speaking of for the 125.
Yeah, that went in the next one.
Then,
Next.
oh, that's the next one. Well, I'll go along with this one anyways.
Somebody make a
Seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 31817 passes. Resolution 31917.
Authorize the controller to make the transfer from the Water District 5 reserve account to the Water 5 operating account to fund New York State Department of Transportation water systems upgrades on Hamburg Street in the amount of $125,000.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilman Valano, seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any more discussion on this? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 31917 passes. Resolution 32017.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in the amount not to exceed $540, and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A960 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees, A2001.200100 by $540, and increasing appropriations A960 and the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvement, A7110.4153 by $540 to pay Empire Engineering PLLC for the town basketball court reconstruction.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilwoman Herrera,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any discussion?
I just have a question, as far as the size of it, they're going to the concession stand, are they going outward, or are they going lengthwise from there?
I'm sorry.
Anybody have
You're
any-
referring to 321 or 3?
We're on 320.
Right, 320, this is for the basketball courts, 320.
Oh, not the, no, this, are we on the basketball court? one?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's right.
I'm talking about the next one, sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 32017 passes. Resolution 32117.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $4,800, and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A960 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $4,800, and increasing appropriations A960 and the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvement A7110.4153 by $4,800 to pay Clifford H. Clay and Son Incorporated to install a concrete pad at Westina Park.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilman Valano,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any discussion?
Yeah, this is the one I wanted to find out, if the pad was gonna go from, I know it's going from the concession stand, is it gonna go lengthwise, or is it gonna go across the road?
It's directly in front of the windows of the concession stand.
Right, but I mean, how big, is it gonna go, are they gonna expand it along there because it's all gravel there?
It's up quite a ways, Rick.
Okay. It's needed, it's needed.
It's 12 to 16 feet, it's wide, it's long. And then we'll build a new cover.
Oh, that's even better.
Okay, with a spring. Yeah.
Good idea.
Any other discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 32117 passes. Resolution 32217.
Establish water rents and contract assessments for the year 2017 for the water district of the town of Rotterdam.
May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilman Lamore. Second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Valano. Any discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 32217 passes. Resolution 32317.
Amend Resolution 97 of 2014 to raise dog licensing fees in accordance with Chapter 126 fees.
May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilman Lamore. May I have a second? I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. As an owner of only one dog, I don't really see this as a major problem because, I mean, it's not a large raise. Now, if somebody's got, you know, a couple dogs, 2, 3 dogs, well, then they might have an issue with this. But I mean, it's a slight raise to give us a little more revenue in the town. I mean, if you own a dog, that's still not a lot of money to pay to have a dog licensed.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
What do we anticipate the revenue being used for?
Just the town clerk's
I didn't
functions.
hear what you said, I'm sorry.
What do we anticipate the revenue to
I
be
didn't
used
even,
for?
because I didn't know whether it was gonna pass. I really didn't
Okay.
do that.
Okay,
I'll
but there is
I'll
backup.
email you and let
It's-
you know.
You provided a nice spreadsheet here comparing what other municipalities charge, so even with your suggested increase, we seem to be generally in line or less. Is that a fair statement? Okay.
It's very town
Well,
clerk's-
the money will be, all money collected from the clerk's office is paid into the general fund. Money paid into the general fund goes to 101 Princetown Road for the police department. So ultimately, this money will be used to further our police state. So I'll be voting no.
Any other comments? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
I'm gonna say yes for the same reason I said it's not a large increase.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
No.
Did you say no?
Yes. I said no.
Mr. Valano?
I'm not going to have one of my last legislative acts being a tax increase on individuals. No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
3 yes, 2 no.
Okay, resolution 32317 passes. Resolution 32417.
Authorize the BB Law Firm to enter into a stipulation of settlement on behalf of the town of Rotterdam in the matter of Town Core 11 LLC versus Board of Assessment Review of the Town of Rotterdam and Town Core 11 LLC, F8KA as Opus 11 LLC versus Town of Rotterdam ETL, index numbers 2016-1505 and 2016-2557.
As was mentioned earlier, the assessor was part of the executive session meeting regarding this and the next 2 resolutions. May I have a motion for 32417? Moved by Councilman Volano. Second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any discussion further?
Just for the record, I must recuse myself. The town core are my cousins. I have to recuse myself from this resolution.
And Mr. Thomason was also not present during the executive session for any of this, anything to do with this. Okay, if there's no further discussion, Ms. Marco, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Recuse.
4 yes, 1 recused.
Resolution 324-17 passes. Resolution 325-17.
Authorize the BB Law Firm to enter into stipulation of settlement on behalf of the Town of Rotterdam in the matter of 3108 Carmen Road LLC versus Town of Rotterdam ETL, index numbers 2016-1519 and 2017-1513.
May I have a motion?
I move.
Motion made by Councilman Valano. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomaso?
Yes.
Motion
Four.
325, I'm
4
sorry.
yes, oh wait, you did vote yes?
Yes, I
I'm
did.
sorry, 5 yes, sorry.
I did. Motion 325-17 passes. Motion, resolution rather. Resolution 326-17.
Authorize the BB Law Firm to enter into stipulation of settlement on behalf of the Town of Rotterdam in the matter of Nicole M. Thomason versus Board of Assessment Review of the Town of Rotterdam and ETL, index number 2017-1378.
Any discussion? May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilman Valano. Second? I'll second it myself. Okay, any discussion?
Well, from what we spoke earlier on it, I think it's kind of a really crappy deal, but at the same time, to fight it would cost the town too much money, so. you know, That's all I have to say.
And I also have to recuse myself from this resolution, obviously.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Unreluctantly, yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Recuse.
4 yes, 1 recused.
Motion 326-17 passes. Resolution, I'm sorry. Resolution 327-17.
Award the bid open on Monday, November 20th, 2017 to Haler, Fryer, and Kuhn Incorporated for Trident Insurance and Alliance Global Corporate and Specialty Coverage and Key Insurance and Benefit Service Incorporated for cyber security, pollution liability, and group accident coverage with Travelers Insurance. Star Indemnity and Liability and Philadelphia Insurance Company to provide insurance coverage for a 3-year period commencing January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. Based on the lowest responsible bid package presented to the town, the town supervisor is authorized to sign all documents necessary to effectuate the insurance coverage.
Okay, may I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilwoman Herrera. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Valano. Just to give you a little background on this, the town engaged in a, I guess you could say, independent company to put all this out to bid with the specs. There were, I believe, 4 or 5 different companies that bid this. Pardon me?
Two bid.
Only two.
Two actually bid.
5 were invited.
Engaged.
2 engaged. 2 or was it 3? I think it might have been 3 that responded.
Well, 2 actually bid when I went to the order.
Okay.
It's in here.
Right, okay.
The detail is right here.
The detail is in here.
Yeah. Who did what?
The company that was awarded, or that we were making motion to award, was the lowest responsible bidder by about $30,000.
5.
Yeah.
And only 2 bid.
Correct. Yes. And is not a company we've ever done business before, if I'm not mistaken,
No.
correct?
No.
And they are also located right here in Rotterdam in the industrial park. So it's a locally represented company. It is a lowest responsible bid with a significant savings for the town.
I just mentioned also, Michael Carl, who for years was our broker here for on and off over the years, did a phenomenal job for the town. They still keep some of the business, a couple of pieces of business, but the pricing that came in was really advantageous for us. It wasn't a situation where we could, if there was just a minor difference, where we could maybe make the case that the work that Mr. Carl knows the town, he knows all the workings and so on, that we could keep the business with him again, because it is a professional service. However, in discussing over the last 2 years with the entire board, but for the most part with Deputy Supervisor Christou. We are going to continue to do things like this as time goes on here, hopefully be able to engage other consultants. And one of the things I just mentioned, not related to this, is that the Shelmont School Syracuse University class is working actually on their project, which has to do with the cable and internet services provided to the town. And they are going to be providing us with a report and a presentation in either January or February. So I think that, everything that we're talking about here that you brought up this evening, which I appreciate you and Mr. Baum being here tonight, is very timely for us. And it is frustrating for us as well. I want you to know that it is not an easy situation. Even these types of bid processes, if you will, are not either. So we engaged the Bryan Asset Management from Slingerlands to act as our agent, if you will, to vet the respondents and vet the companies in the area that even some of them in the past have provided insurance services to the town. So it's in an environment like this, it's nice to be able to save money. So thank you to all of you for your efforts too to help me and to help us get this through this year.
Any other comments? Significant savings anyway. Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
The lowest responsible bidder was 10% lower than our past bidder. I see no reason not to pass this. Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 32717 passes. Resolution 32817.
Award the bid open on Monday, October 30th, 2017 to Gauls LLC, 1340 Russell Cage Road, Lexington, Kentucky, 40505 for standardized uniforms and equipment for the police department for a 2-year period commencing January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019.
And again, I believe this is the lowest responsible bidder situation.
It's the only bidder, which is the one thing that I don't like about it.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, you think people in this day and age will be eager to.
You would think so. I mean, at least put the bid out there.
They're pretty
Maybe you get it.
They're a pretty large company though for uniforms.
And there's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions in this space, believe it or not, with uniforms and other types of related, if you will, equipment. So that's the other part of it too.
May I have a motion?
Less and less companies.
I'll move.
Motion made by Councilman Bolano. Have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller Herrera. Any discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 32817 passes. Resolution 32917.
Accept town clerk's report for the month of November 2017.
May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Councilman Lamore. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Miller Herrera. Any discussion? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
This resolution 32917 passes. Resolution 33017.
Authorize budget transfers by the town controller to various accounts for 2017.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
May I have a second? Motion made by Councilwoman Miller Herrera.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilman Lamore. Any discussion?
Yes, Deputy Supervisor. Protection's important. Protection is also the most expensive part of our budget. Certainly nobody wants to be a victim of a crime. However, as I have brought up in past discussions, large, multinational research projects have been done on the use of cameras, plate readers, and other police technology out in public areas. certainly we've had long discussions regarding privacy and, rights of citizens, and courts have held that you are not in a private realm when you are in public, such as on our major thoroughfares. And I have to acquiesce to that. I realize that case law has said that. That doesn't necessarily mean that I like it. The thing is that as there's more government, there's less freedom. And there has to be a weighing of how much government and intrusion that we're going to allow in our lives. What I don't need to do is vote yes for the spending of more money to be supervised by the police. People may say, we don't understand. You're a lawyer. Certainly law and order has to be important to you. And I say that it is. But more importantly to that is my core belief as a civil libertarian. We have a right not to be supervised by the government every waking moment, whether or not we're doing something wrong. I cannot vote for the spending of more police cameras in this town. I just can't.
Any other comments? I would just add that, in my opinion, I don't see it as other esteemed members of the board see it. I see it as contributing to the public safety of our citizens, and I believe our personal track record is that those cameras have helped us succeed in making some good arrests. Deputy Chief Brown, is that a fair statement? Yes, sir. Thank you. Having said that, if there's no other comments, Ms. Marco, can you please call the roll? Okay.
Deputy Chief Brown, have you ever read the London study, which is the leading study on police surveillance of its citizens?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, the London study, well, for those of you at home that don't know, London is the most videotaped area in the world. On the way to work, a regular British citizen passes hundreds of cameras that are supervised and logged. And what they have found is that areas where there is that supervision, there has actually been no decrease. People simply just don't care whether they know they're being videotaped or not. However, what they have found is places where the cameras are visible, the same amount of crime happens literally just outside of the range of the cameras. Criminals are not stupid people, but basically what the London study says is that you can spend all the money on this that you want and you flush it down the toilet. That's what it says. Certainly, I would invite everybody up here that is going to be voting on increased police expenditures to go out and read that study. I've provided hard copies to the board in the past. I would be more than happy to do that again in the future, even if I'm no longer sitting up here to physically hand it to you.
Mr. Lano, anything else?
Nothing.
Okay. London is a beautiful city. I've been to London. My grandfather lived in London for almost 40 years.
It's a great place.
But I'm more interested in the Rotterdam study. And the Rotterdam study states that we've been successful with these cameras in addressing crime and making arrests. Having said that, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Well, I do agree that in a lot of cases, we really don't need to spend money on things like this. But overall, I don't want to vote no on this for only that reason. I would want more things that I disagree with to vote no on it, so I'm gonna vote yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
So there's 4 yes and 1 no.
Resolution 33017 passes. Any committee reports this evening?
And I apologize, I didn't realize it said consent items up here, Steve.
That's okay.
All right.
That's
Under miscellaneous, if I may, I would also like to thank Councilman Valano, Councilman Lamore. There have been many times we've been on opposite ends of the spectrum, but I will say that I really believe in my heart of hearts that all 5 of us want to get to the same place, albeit the road we choose to get there may differ at times. And it's one of my favorite quotes I'm going to share out of respect for you two gentlemen, even though at times we shared many frustrations and disagreement. And it was written by Theodore Roosevelt. It's called The Man in the Arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles, how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly. Bear with me, I'm not that good with this phone. Who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end triumph of high achievement, and who at worst he fails, he at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls. Bear with me again, this darn phone.
You're using too many fingers.
Is that what it is? Those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And you've been in the arena for 4 years, and for that, I thank you both.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well,
I'll say a couple.
I'd
Yeah,
like
go
to
ahead,
say
guys.
something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to thank the townspeople, the taxpayers, and the homeowners and everything for giving myself and Joe an opportunity to serve the community and try to make things a better place. I can tell you, for the most part, the main reason why I decided not to be involved with politics and government anymore, though, is because I've seen a lot of terrible things while here. And biggest thing that really turned me away from all this was when we called for an audit to be done. Now, we knew that this was the past administration, not these people, past administration. There was things that were done that weren't right. And so we asked the state government, who their job is to oversee everything, we asked them to, we told them the time frame, which was 2011 to 2015, and we told them interfund transfers. That's what they needed to look at. When it was all done and said and done, that audit was done in 2015 to 16, and it was done on water rates. Now, if you're completely doing an audit on something completely different than what you were asked to look at, that tells me something really stinks. And because of that, and in fact also, if they were all okay with their audit, why did they not send the two people that asked for the audit a copy of the full audit? Joe and I never got a copy of the full audit. We got like a couple pages of summary, but we didn't get the full audit because they knew the real deal, that we knew what the real deal was. So when that happened, I just said, you know what? I've had enough with this. I can't stomach it anymore. But I want to thank the people that gave us the opportunity.
Just for clarification, Rick, when you say they, you're referring to the State Office of State Control in the state of New York, correct? Okay. Mr. Valano, anything else?
yes. So tonight is my final town board meeting, which is in many ways bittersweet. But following the footsteps of our founding fathers, I refuse to become a career politician. Our governmental system was meant to be run by citizen legislators. And that's really what Rick and I were. People are supposed to be in leadership roles only for short periods of time. If you can't get it done in your first term, you simply can't get it done. And then you return to your occupations and to your family. I look back at the last 7 years. First as a town board candidate with Doc Tomaselli, and then as a potential assembly candidate against Angelo Santa Barbara, and then running for the seat that ultimately I was elected to. I look back at those 7 years, and I realize that I've had an opportunity to serve my country in my own way. But likewise, those 7 years have been very precious to me. I have a son who's 9 and a daughter who's 7, and I've spent many an hour away from my family, down here trying to do your work. Upon the termination of my town role, much will change, I'm sure, come January 1st. But likewise, think unfortunately a lot won't. On the upside, I guess I should look at it, I'm going to regain time for my jobs and for my family. However, unfortunately now it seems like the board is even more unified, and it's under the unfortunate control of the Schenectady County Attorney's Office. Through the 4 years that I sat here, I can count my legislative accomplishments maybe on one hand. I'd like to at least see those continue. I saw the solar law pass, and some of my thoughts were taken into account and written into the final draft. I saw the Whispering Pines Senior Project shot down. Thankfully, as that is the worst case of spot zoning I can imagine. Taking recreational agricultural land, a large tract of it, surrounded by single-family houses, changed into such a large commercial enterprise. I also asked for small things, such as 3 stop signs. Considering my minority position, I should consider myself fortunate enough that I got 1. There was a glorious period of about 15 months after Mike Viscusi resigned. The Councilman Lamore and I had veto authority in this town, and that we were able to push the brake pedal and slow some of the spending. Really though, what Councilman Lamore and I offered the town residents was an examination of the town's governance. I really do feel like we were a ray of sunshine. And through mirrors, we try to reflect it on the state. And I'm saddened that although we showed them exactly the same thing that they punished Troy for 3 months earlier, they couldn't find the same things here. Having people who are able to sit and say no and have the courage to ask hard questions for the good of the taxpayer, I hope is not something that will be lost in the coming years. Having a divided government is a good thing. Having people who are adversaries is a good thing. Certainly not outside of the public arena. At the end of the meetings, I shake all of your hands, we wish each other well. But the fact that we're able to have those spirited debates up here is something that is good for the town. Unfortunately, though, I do have a feeling that that may come to an end. This is why. If you go back and you look at one of the few meetings that maybe me or Councilman Lamore were not in attendance, your typical 2-hour meetings are 25 minutes. There is no discourse. Although coming January 1st, I hope that some member of the board will take my seat. Or Rick's. I've attended at this point almost 100 meetings, knowing that I would lose every meaningful vote. If I had another 2 or maybe even 4 years sitting up here, I would have another 50 or 100 opportunities to lose critical votes. So on my way out, realizing my presence or not on this board has essentially made no difference, I'm going to try a different tactic. Coming here tonight, I had the opportunity to go back, grab some campaign literature, because those are always my favorite things. And I looked at mine, and Steve's, and Rick's, and Evans. And essentially, if you read our campaign literature, and you took maybe Steve's face off of it, supervisors face off of it, you may have thought that you were re-electing me. We have essentially the same platform. Let's talk about some of the things that have been promised on my campaign literature and on theirs. And maybe some of those things will come to fruition now that I'm not here to ask for those same things. Well, in the supervisor's literature, he promised that he was going to rebuild Rotterdam's infrastructure, water, sewers, and stormwater. If you go back and you look at mine from 2011, 2013, that I sought to extend the sewer lines through Hambrick Street and Burdick Street. I'm the one that pressed for those initial studies. I'm the one that hired the initial engineers. It's something that Councilman Lamore and I started. And I'm glad to see that it's going forward now. Councilman Lamore and I supported REMS. And even in the dark times when Baffardi and Calder were here trying to end the program, Councilman Lamore and I successfully negotiated a contract with REMS and Chief Manicus back in 2014. Yet it took another 3 years for this current administration to get a contract with very, very similar terms to get done. Hopefully in the future it won't take 3 years to follow up on work that Councilman Lamore and I started. Councilman Lamore and I opposed the brush fee from the get-go. And we called for its immediate rescission upon Supervisor Thomasone's election. Thought that was going to happen. I thought it was going to immediately go away. Why? Because his campaign literature said that. And his discussions with the newspaper captured exactly those same thoughts. And I sat there for the debate before I voted for Supervisor Thomasone on the hopes that he would follow through on those promises. And it wasn't until the newspaper and Councilman Lamore and I pushed him a little further away from the $10 a year decreases to the little more aggressive stance that the deputy supervisor wanted of dropping it in 2 increments. The same political literature that the supervisor put out said that he would build tax base to control taxes, fees, and spending. And if you looked at mine, it would have said opposes the creation of new fees and taxes. Hopefully I've done that. Or hopefully it's believable that I've tried to do that. Whereas I say we, I don't mean that. They have added driver responsibility fees and dog licensing fees along the way. Certainly that's not what was promised. So, since I will not be here any longer when the gavel hits, all I ask for this board and the individuals that will be joining and sitting in the seats that me and Councilman Lamore sit in now is that they actually follow through on their campaign promises. Because their literature and mine are the same. That's what the people elected them to do. And that is what I ask for. Lastly, I would be remiss not to thank somebody. He was nice enough to come here on my last meeting and wish me and Rick well in our political retirements. Bob Godlewski is really a great guy. Not only was he councilman of the town, he did something that really nobody else could do. There is, and I'm sure everybody else up here, well, maybe with the exception of the supervisor who's been here before, there is no training to prepare you for this job. There's no class that you could go to, even if you attended the one that I think me and At least the deputy supervisor attended in Albany when he got elected. It doesn't do the job. You really have to have somebody who's going to spend hours and hours. And by the time that former Councilman Galuski got done, hundreds of hours with Councilman Lamore and I, teaching us this job. You know, certainly there's very few people that will give you hundreds of hours of their time. There's a few in this room that I know would be willing to do that for other people, but not many. I'm very thankful for the gifts that he's passed down to Rick and I have nothing further.
Okay, couple of housekeeping things. I do want to say a few things. As I complimented you for being on this board, I must also voice my disappointment that you chose your last words on this dais to be pretty much a condemnation of everybody but yourselves. I think that was unfortunate. I expected, I really shouldn't have expected anything differently, but I will thank the supervisor for actually following up on his campaign promises in a fiscally responsible way. Things like the REMS thing, I sat on that committee, and your divided government couldn't get the job done. We got the job done finally with cleaning up some things that needed to be done. I wholeheartedly disagree with, I don't have a problem with the spirit of debate, as you know, but I also believe that a house divided will fall. Having said that, I have a document here that comes from DOT, letting the citizens know that by the close of business on Friday, December 15th, 2017, both travel lanes on Hamburg Street, 2nd Street / Caldecott East Campbell Road will be open to full traffic access in both directions, which I'm sure is welcome news to the merchants on that street. And secondly, the Regional Economic Development Council has, they had the next round of, I guess, the grants. And Rotterdam was awarded a $48,750 grant, which we were going to apply towards the purchase of a parcel of land in the Water District 3 in the Great Flats Aquifer area, directly adjacent to two public wellheads. Purchase of this property is a priority to protect water quality of the public well fields. Having said that, and in closing,
Just to say safe and happy holidays to everyone, and to Don Pasquarella, to Member Milano, and to Member Barmore. Thank you very much for your service over the years for the town. I mean, there's things that I could say, but I'm going to leave all that alone. But I want to end on a positive note. I appreciate you all coming this evening as well. Go ahead, Rick.
I do want to say one thing about this, the idea of spirited debate. I know at times the debates got a little too spirited, but there's a good point to be made with if you have two sides of the debate, then all the points and issues come out. Whether you agree with them all or not, we're going to vote on them, and however it goes, it goes. But if both sides of the issues come out, then it's better for the townspeople and the taxpayers, because then we're going to figure out the best idea. Because the best idea might not be the initial idea. If you have all the issues come out, let the taxpayers, they're watching, they're here, let them decide what they think the best idea is, because that's what we're really here for. We're not here to, I'm right, you're wrong. We're not here for that. We want the issues to come out on both sides, because if everybody's a yes person and just votes one way all the time, then how are we going to know what's right and wrong? We're just going along with what everybody's saying. You need both sides. It really is
you
important.
absolutely do need both sides, but you can also disagree without vilifying.
Oh, I'm not saying
And that's,
nothing
I
on that.
think, the major point that we should walk away with. Anyway, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilwoman Miller Herrera,
I will second.
seconded by Councilman Volano.
I'm 30.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
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 Merry Christmas, everyone.